Welcome to Geometry Pre-AP. Today we're on Topic 1, Section 4, Exploring Angle Pairs. We're going to do our essential understanding here, which is that special angle pairs can help you identify geometric relationships. You can use these angle pairs to find angle measures. So, it's very important that we deal with geometric relationships. It's the big part of our whole entire year is finding those relationships, understanding them, and remembering them. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do a data dump, which in geometry is like, or in math in general, is writing down anything and everything you can think of this topic and seeing what did you know to start, which things did you know already, and what things do we need to fill in the gaps for. So pause this video and write everything that you can think of about angle pairs and definitions and pictures to start. Okay, so now that you've started the video back up again, we're going to try to go through all the different angle pair things that there are. And let's see if you have these things in your data dump or you don't. Okay, the first thing you may not have thought about is that when we have an angle bisector, okay, an angle bisector, you can see the word bisector right here, an angle bisector just takes a whole angle. So we got a whole angle and it makes it two smaller angles congruent or equal to each other. So it's like part is equal to part. Like we did in the day before's lesson, we have part plus bar is equal to whole for segment or angle addition. And segment addition, we make the two parts equal when you have a bisector. We don't want to say that it divides an angle into half because we don't know what the whole is, so we can't do the half. So don't think about that. It says it divides an angle into two equal parts. And so if this angle is divided into two equal parts, we don't know what the whole thing is, but we do know that this part is equal to this part. So since we don't know what the whole thing is equal to, that's why this setup is not a correct setup. And so this is our correct setup, and so we can solve this setup. And if you want to pause the video and finish solving the setup, that'd be even better. It gives you something to show in your notes and stuff. So, but if you don't, I'm going to work through this. So minus 3x and minus 3x plus 2 and plus 2. And so we get x is equal to 20. And so once we got 20, I can go find the measures of the angles. And so that's going to be 4 times 20 minus 2. So that's a minus 2, which is 78 degrees. And so this is 3 times 20 plus 18, so this is 78 degrees. And our actual question asks for the whole thing, so we have to add 78 and 78. So the measure of angle ABC is equal to 156 degrees. And this is the angle. We need to have the units there. We need to have all that information, everything shown. Okay, so remember that when you're taking your notes, all this stuff should be written down and that you need to take your information and answer the questions being asked. Okay. So angle bisector is the first type of pairs that are created from an angle. Okay. So this is one that I want you to practice. So make sure you show your work. You can pause the video as long as you need to work this problem. I'm not going to show you the answers to this problem. It'll be something we can discuss in class if you don't get an answer that makes sense. So pause the video and work through this problem. Okay, now that you finished problem, make sure you show all work in order to get credit for doing your video notes. Okay. So some key concepts here. These are the angle pairs that we talk about a lot. And so if I look at these, the first one we tend to talk about is adjacent angles. And that is just two angles that are next to each other that share a common vertex and a side. So this is their side, and that's their vertex. So there's their side, and there's their vertex. And there's no special setup really for adjacent angles. You can use the angle addition postulate, which is part plus part is equal to the whole to do your setup if you have a problem that says two angles are adjacent. Okay. Vertical angles. Vertical angles are two angles whose sides are opposite rays. So there are two opposite rays, and there are two opposite rays. So that's why angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. The algebraic setup for vertical angles, whenever you see the word vertical angles, is going to be the angle 1 is equal to angle 2. So the two vertical angles are equal to each other. Okay. Or angle 3 and angle 4. They always come in two pairs. All right. And so then we have complementary and supplementary. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Each angle is a complement of each other. And so we have the uh, angle plus the angle is equal to 90, and we have the angle plus the angle is equal to 180 for the supplementary. One of the ways I try to remember this is that complementary starts with a C and supplementary starts with an S. That's one thing to help. Okay, you can take the C and make a 90, take the S and make a 180. And the other way that I learned how to remember it is if you have to ask a question. If I say, hey, you look nice today, that is giving somebody a compliment. And to give somebody a compliment is always right. And so if you can remember it's always right, and right is a 90-degree angle to give somebody a compliment, that'll help you remember compliment is 90 degrees. And then the other one is supplementary, which is 180 degrees. So that's just a little skill to help you remember those. Okay? And so I want you to take a minute and see if you can figure out which one of these are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So pause your video, and when you're done, come back and let's see how you did. Okay, so you should have saw your better. So I'm just going to put letters here. So this was complementary, this was neither, this was supplementary, this was complementary, this is supplementary, and this is neither. Sometimes that last one gets you. So if you got that one wrong, remember to ask me in class tomorrow. Okay? All right. So here we have angle A and angle B are complementary. So if you want to figure out which one of these setups is right, you can pause the video and work through this problem. And when you're done, you can check and see how you did. Okay, so if it's complementary, it's the letter C, and we know it's always right to complement somebody, so that's the 90. So that means this setup is wrong, this setup is wrong, and this is your correct setup. I want you to finish this problem. Make sure you show me that the measure of angle A and the measure of angle B, what they are equal to in your notes, in order to get credit for this problem. So again, that's something I'm going to look for in your notes. All right, here's another problem. You can pause your video, work through this problem, get your answer. All right, supplementary. Got the S. Remember that when we have supplementary, we can take that S and we can make the 180 out of it, which means this setup's wrong, this setup's wrong, only this setup's right. I want you to make sure you work out the problem and show me all the work and find out what the solution is for each one of those two angles. They better add up to 180 or you haven't worked this problem correctly. All right, so again, I'm putting a star by this. That shows me the stuff I'm going to be looking for. So linear pair postulate, postulate 1-9, says that if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. So a linear pair is a special type of supplementary angles. It is the two adjacent angles who share the side and share the vertex, but their non-adjacent sides must form a straight angle. And so if you have this, this is a linear pair, okay? Not something like this. That's not a linear pair, not a linear pair. Okay, don't mix up. It has to be a straight angle. Okay, all right. And remember this linear pair postulate, we're going to use it in proofs all the time. It's going to be very important. So the way this tends to work is that if you have a linear pair, then they are supplementary. That can help you with your setup. So linear pairs, their setup is that angle plus angle equals 180. All right, so I want you to pause the video here for a few minutes, and I want you to determine if it's a linear pair, vertical angles, or neither, but each one of these pairs here, and then we'll see how you did once you got that done. Okay? All right, so pause your video and work on it. All right, so now that you started the video back, let's see how you did. So 5 and 9, 1 and 2, 3 and 5, 1 and 4, 2 and 3, 7, 8, 9, 6 and 7, and 5 and 6. Now, you may have gotten some of these wrong. If you did, I'll bet you might have gotten this one wrong. You might have put linear pair there, but let me remind you, linear pair. Pair is two angles. It's not a linear triple, it's a linear pair. Okay, so watch out for those. Those are good things to practice with. All right, so a little information about diagrams. there are some relationships that you can assume are true with no marks or measures, and so there are other relationships you cannot assume true. So some things that you can assume is that angles that are adjacent, because you have a picture of those, and you can look at the picture and you can tell. And you can tell if they're adjacent supplementary, and one of the reasons why they're adjacent supplementary would be is that you can see a little straight angle, which is makes a linear pair sometimes. And vertical angles are formed by opposite rays. You have a definition for opposite rays. We did that on one of our first things on the first stage. So these are things that we have definitions for that we can actually go and look at. But what you cannot do is determine if angles are congruent or segments are congruent unless they have marks. If they don't have marks, you cannot do this. And you can't tell if an angle is right. Just because it looks right doesn't mean it is right. It could be 89.4 degrees. So unless there's a mark, you can't say it's a right angle. And if you can't say it's a right angle, you can't say it's complementary either unless you have that right angle mark. So never make any assumptions about numbers without those marks. Okay, you might want to pause the video and copy some of that information down. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is where a lot of your problems on your homework are going to look like this. So it says find the values of x and y. So if we look here, there are a couple different setups here. And so our question becomes is which one is right? Okay, so that's what we're really looking at here. So let's see. Yeah, we don't need that. There we go. All right, so which one of these equations is right? Is it the first one, the second one, or the third one? So pause the video and think about that for a second. Which equation is right? Well, now that you've started the video again, I will tell you that actually all three are correct. But there's only one that you can work very easily, and I would say this first one right here is the one you can work the easiest. The second one has an x and a y in it, and the third one has an x and y in it, so they would be easy to find. And so if we take that first one, we can say 9x plus 20 plus 7x equals 180. And we can solve that, and that's 16x equals 160, and so x is equal to 10. And so I've got the value of x, so I can plug it back in. This becomes 70 degrees. This becomes 110 degrees. Well, I still need to find y, but remember that I told you this setup was right too, wasn't it? So that's now 70 equals 2y, and so y is equal to 35. So in geometry, you're always going to have to solve for a variable, plug it back in. You might have to plug it back in to solve and get another equation to do another variable. So it's multi-stepped always in geometry. All right. And so I could have used this second equation here to go find y, but there was a lot more algebra in that, and the third one's just probably the easier way to go. All right, so let's pause our video here for this one while you work this problem and practice this problem. Okay? Okay, so you should have given yourself time to work on this problem. I'm not going to give you the setups, but I am going to give you the answers so that you can check and see how you did. Okay, there's multiple ways that you could set this up, but really only truly one way where you can work and solve this problem. So when you're done, you should have these answers. You should have x is equal to 55 and y is equal to 30. And let me give you a little bit of a hint here. Maybe this will help you out. These two have x and these two have y, and you need to think about what's the special name for those pairs of angles. Okay? All right, so I just wrote this information down. If you wanted to pause the video and write this down, just as another overview of the different types of angle pairs that we learned today. The angle bisector is not in there, but it wouldn't hurt to write that one. So you could pause the video and write this information down. You don't have to. It's for your benefit. And also, here's a list of the vocabulary terms, the essential questions, and the TEKS that we're looking at today. All right, so that is the end of this lesson. Have your notes ready for tomorrow so we can check them. You can get credit. You can use those when you're working through the work tomorrow in the class.